So I'd just like to thank you for popping along for our seminar on AI. Very topical at the moment. I'm going to introduce Daniel shortly. He's going to give us a welcome from Yorb, and then we'll take a brief look at AI. And I'll run through some different scenarios for you, so just some real-world ways to use it there. Then we'll touch on the implementation of Copilot and what you need to consider for that. Why Microsoft Copilot versus all the others. And finally, some observations, thoughts, your questions. So keep those in mind. And don't forget to put your name on the when you ask questions on Padlet as well, so we know who's asking. But without further ado, I will hand over to Daniel.
Thank you, Rich. Good afternoon. Thank you, Rob. I've been at Yorb now for over 20 years, and in that time I think I've done almost every job in the company. I started 20 plus years ago fixing print and fax machines. I wasn't very good at the fixing fax machines, but anyone, I apologise right now if the fax machine doesn't work. I'll give you a refund. And in that time, obviously, I've been security consultant, 365 server deployments. I've been service delivery manager, sales manager, and run a few presentations like this along the way. But this is my first time coming to these events as CEO. Along the way, you get sort of asked questions around, why are you still at Yorb? Why have you been doing this job for all these years, and what do you enjoy the most? And until very recently, I would have always answered, and do always answer, I loved being a tech. Huge amount of fun being a tech. You get to go home each night knowing exactly what you've achieved. You can restore some files or reset a password, deploy a PC or a server, get home, tick a box, so I achieved that today. The users are happy, I can go to sleep at night. And even to this day, I'll still jump on the phone system occasionally and answer the odd call when the phones get a bit busy. And it's one of the best parts of my day when I get to do that. It's particularly when I still get the smile back feedback, so I did a good job. But recently, Yorb's been undergoing a bit of a review on who we are and where we're headed and what the next 10 years looks like. We're introducing a new business framework within the business, and as part of that, we had to look at our core values, our niche, our guarantee, and our mission. And we're really happy with our core values and how we behave and who we are as a business. But we've been struggling with our mission a little bit. And we had one, we just didn't feel it spoke to who we were. And then about 6 weeks ago, our sales manager asked me, why do I still come to work every day? What am I here for? And I do still love coming to work. I still work stupid hours every week, and I love it. And had to really think about that because I'm not an engineer anymore very often. And I realised what I really love is talking to clients. And when you talk to a client and you talk to them about technology, the spark in their eye when they see a use for that technology. And not every client's the same. The technology you use will be different to somebody else. But you talk about the technology and they see a business outcome they can solve. They see a business issue. They can improve customer service. They can decrease costs or improve productivity, whatever that may be. And they get excited, and not from the LED lights and circuit board sort of way that I might, but from that business outcomes way. So I realised that's why we're here. We're here to get you excited by technology, to get you to use that technology to unleash your potential, recognising also that it's not about the LEDs and the circuit boards, it's about the business outcomes. The technology itself is not the destination. So that's why we're here to talk to you about AI. We recognise it's here to come, it's here to stay. We certainly can't stop it, but we can exploit it. And to underline my point a little bit, there's a story from the 1970s, a small company back in those days called Intel. They used to make computer chips for calculators. It was before personal computers existed. And I think it was early 1970s, and a young engineer went into the CEO and founder of Intel, Gordon Moore's office, and had this great idea. He said, we can make a personal computer with these little chips we make for calculators. we can make a computer for the home. And Gordon sort of asked the question, he said, well, what's the use of that? What are you going to use a personal computer in the home for? What's the point? And the engineer thought about this for a while, and he came back with housewives could use it to store their recipes on. Gordon couldn't quite see a use for that. He thought, there's no market on this, get out of my office, go away. And Intel never made the world's first personal computer, and the world of IT is not as dominated by Intel as it could be. Let's not feel bad for them. They've made a few $1 billion along the way, so they've done pretty well out of the IT business. But the whole PC world could have been a lot different. They could have been Apple or IBM or whoever they wanted to be if they had made that first computer. So my point there is we all have lots of great ideas. We come to you with technologies, but what stops us using them is often imagination. How do we imagine this could be used in our business? And Rich is going to talk today about the ideas of AI and how we can use it, but how you use it in your business is up to you, and it's up to you to bring that imagination. Rich.
Cool. Thanks, Daniel. So interestingly, the term artificial intelligence, we think it's pretty new. We're hearing about it everywhere, but it was first kind of coined back in 1956 at Dartmouth College over in the United States. So it's been around for a long time. Now, who's heard of ChatGPT? Sweet. Who's used it? Cool. Who's put company information into it? Oh, okay, so Heather's here. You have to go have a chat to her later about why we shouldn't do that. But ChatGPT is an example of what we call a generative AI. So it learns from a big pool of data, and the idea is that it is there to generate new content for you. So there's lots of these, whether they're generating text, audio, video, images, all over the place. So I thought, we'll have a look at this. So I wouldn't have imagined that 18 months ago I would be standing here talking to you about AI. 18 months ago, I was on a holiday at the beach over Christmas, and somebody mentioned to me about ChatGPT. I'm like, what is this thing? Went to the website, tried it, I was blown away. So this here shows how quickly this technology has come about. So basically this graph, a little bit hard to see on this projector, but time to reach 100 million users. So it took 16 years for 100 million mobile phone users, 7 years for the internet, 4.5 for Facebook, and only 3 months for ChatGPT. We've never seen this level of adoption in the IT industry at all. So I thought I'll start off. You've all heard of ChatGPT. I'll do a bit of a demo of it, even though you've probably all seen it. Now, the writing's teensy tiny. Don't worry about it. I'll tell you what I'm putting in there. So I thought I'll start off. We'll just ask it to create a one-paragraph story about a shark jumping out of a coffee cup. So away it goes. To be honest, quite a long paragraph, really. So we'll get it, shorten it down a bit. We'll make it a third of the length. There it is, much better. Now, no story is complete without pictures. So OpenAI also have what they call DALL-E, so where we can create images out of text. So let's ask it to create an image of a shark jumping out of a coffee cup, and it gives us two options, which is pretty cool. So click on one of those. So pretty amazing, really, if you think just typing a bit of text and it can create this thing. So we'll add a bit more mood to it. So I'll ask it to do one at night time. So that's way better, eh? That's like American Werewolf versus Jaws or something, so very cool. Now, OpenAI that have done ChatGPT and DALL-E, they've also recently announced Sora, which is now to create video out of your text. So at the moment, 60-second clips is what you'll be able to do. And this is one that's kind of got Hollywood worried. So keeping on the shark theme, this is New York. If it was Atlantis, sharks swimming around everywhere. Or perhaps a couple of pirate ships in a coffee cup. You just couldn't create this stuff. It's just amazing. Alien walking through New York, thriller style. Now, I'm not sure if you heard the headline about Tyler Perry. So he's got a film studio, and he was looking to do an extension to his studio. It was going to cost $800 million. As soon as he saw this stuff, he put it on hold permanently. Reason being, he's like, why do I need this extension to my studio soon I'm going to be able to ask this to, I don't know, it might create the backdrops or the scenes of movies and that sort of thing. So just amazing to kind of see how it's all impacting it. Enough of OpenAI. We're here to talk about Copilot. So I'll give you a sneak peek promo video. So there's a lot in here, and we'll check that out.
Straight to the top, never going down, don't wait for the drop. Stand still, that's the motto, yeah. Brand new bands for the auto, oh. Foot to the ground, full throttle. Big energy for the night like lotto. Y'all talk lots, never this quiet. Life like a Seinfeld plot. Vault full of songs, all of them bombs. Something like a minefield guy, boom. Get it, tickets running out quick. Bet it, never get it out big. Said it, never had to shout it. They said I couldn't ever do it, okay, how's it? Fit a week worth of work in a minute. Machine well oiled, you know how I stay efficient. To-do list written, I do this different. Hold up, wait a minute, I ain't finished. Okay. Look, flows the same now. Paved the way to snakes and fakes are chased out. Back to back to back, I changed the pace now. Had to stack the cash until the bank's out. Straight to the top, never going down, don't wait for the drop.
I love a good promo video. So, but man, there is a lot in there, eh? So what we're going to do, we'll explore some different scenarios for you. So before I started at Yorb, I'll just move that little pointer. Before I started at Yorb, I had my own design business, so marketing, websites, graphic design, etc. We would go up to Semi-Permanent, which is one of the design festivals up in Auckland, and Teredo was always the MC. He would always start off talking about this, the blank page. He'd talk about the tyranny of the blank page and how hard it is for designers to kind of, where do I even start? What's that first brushstroke? Now, I think that's one of the greatest uses of AI, Copilot, etc. It's just getting you started. It's that. Fill it in. So we'll explore some different scenarios here. So this is what Copilot in Microsoft Teams looks like, Copilot chat. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask it to, again, tiny, you won't be able to read that. We've got a product called Yorb Aware, which is our email phishing testing software. So I'm going to ask it to help me create a bit of a marketing brochure. Now, I've asked it to have a look at Yorb Aware and create the IDA framework, which is attention, interest, desire, and action. And let's see what it does. So what it's doing now, it's looking at our data at Yorb. It's gone away to find out about Yorb Aware, and then it's writing that, as I say, those points, attention, desire, action. And there are the points. So action prompt, don't wait until it's too late. Sign up for Yorb Aware today and safeguard your business. So pretty good straight away from an out-of-the-box sort of response. Now what I'm going to do, copy that. I'm going to jump into PowerPoint. So in PowerPoint, you'll see I now have got a Copilot button up here. Click that, and it gives you some prompters, so you don't have to kind of always wonder how to do it. So create a presentation from file, or add a slide about something. So I'm going to click on the create a presentation, and I've pasted that text that I just created into here. So it's read the text, and it's created a PowerPoint presentation for me straight away. Pretty awesome. It's got photos in there as well that I'm allowed to use. So these images have what we call Creative Commons license. I can use those for anything. Now, somebody asked me how quick this was, because obviously this is a PowerPoint, so it's a bit quicker here. It took about 45 seconds to generate that. So if you think yourself kind of making it, only just open PowerPoint in 45 seconds, And you'll notice down here, it's also put the speaker notes. So it's even told me what to say in my presentation, so pretty amazing. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, we're probably all familiar with HR, hiring people. So I thought, let's have a look at this scenario. Now, before we do, just have a think about how long does it take you at the moment to go through that whole process of job descriptions and stuff, and then we'll look at how quick it is using this. So popping into Word to start with, we're going to create a job description. So here's our letterhead. Now, when I open Word, now that I've got Copilot, it'll always pop up with a prompt, just reminding me that Copilot's there, because it is very easy to forget that you've got this thing to help you. You just go about your day. Normally, click on the Copilot button, and then I'm going to ask it to look at 3 of our documents. So we've got like a role description, skill description, and our people and culture. and then to create a job description from that. And away it goes. So it's looking at files in our system, pulling out the bits it needs, and there it goes. It created the systems engineer job description. So I'll keep that. Now, let's say I've found some candidates, they've sent in their CVs. I'd like Copilot to summarise that for me. So what I'm doing this time, I've got the CVs there. I'm going to ask it to look at Jane Doe's CV and summarise it for me, highlighting skills and etc. So it goes away, pops up with the summary for me. So now I can do that for each CV rather than wading through all of them, just summarise all of those. And with the summaries, what it does, it puts these little, it's a one, but these little citations. So it's telling me where it actually got that information from. For those that have used ChatGPT, you type stuff into it, it's like, here's the answer, but it doesn't tell you where it got that information, and sometimes it kind of makes it up. Have you heard the story about the lawyer that used it for his closing statement or whatever it was? So got it to write it for him, and it created all this case law, and it's great, and he said it, and fantastic, and then they referenced that and found out all the case law was made up. So it all got thrown out, and it's like, scary. So this is, to me, one really important bit, is that you know where it's getting the information from. So I hover over that, and it's showing me that is the place it got the data. The other thing that it shows you, which is a little bit hard to see here, but it gives you other ways or other options to carry on the conversation. So down here it says, what are some examples of projects that Jane has worked on? So then you can ask it that and get a bit more and a bit more and a bit more. All right, next we're going to create some interview questions. Anybody heard of Loop? No. Oh, cool. Yep, excellent. So Loop is a new add-on to the Microsoft suite. If you want to know more about it, just ask me later on. I personally think it's great. I've been using it to prepare for the seminar. So what I've done in Loop, I've got a little workspace there for HR. And so in there, I've got some sections for candidates and job description and so on, but this is my section that I'm going to collate stuff for the interview. So I've got my little Copilot button on the side there. And here I'm going to ask it to come up with a series of questions for the interview and asking about previous experience, goals, include some questions about personal interests. And away it goes. Created 10 questions for me, and now I can use those in the interview. And if I wanted, I could say, can you give me some more questions or some more questions focusing on this? All right, next up we conduct the interview. So using Microsoft Teams. So during the meeting over Teams, I can ask it to give me a recap of the meeting so far. So it then gives me a summary. I can then also ask it, are there any questions that are unresolved? So it's listening with the transcript, and it'll say, Jane asked this question and you never answered it, etc. So I can go to that. I can also ask it for, are there any other questions that I should ask? And then right at the very end of the meeting, I can also just say, give me that summary recap, and it'll give me action points, and it'll name who action that is and that sort of thing as well. So it works super well. If you wanted it, instead of taking minutes for a meeting, it just really depends on what detail you need for those minutes. If all you need is a nice summary and action points from a meeting, great. If you need the full detail of what everybody said, then there is the transcript part of it, but it can be quite interesting what Teams thinks you said. All right, so let's say we pick Jane and we want to create an offer letter. So again, jumping back into Word. And what I'm going to ask at this time is, looking at both the role description and also the company brochure with the benefits, etc., come up with a letter of offer. And there it goes. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that it's coming up with the starter for me. I would then want to go and reread and tweak that if I need to and that sort of thing. So I would definitely recommend people don't go, oh, that's good, it's done it, let's send it. So it's scary. Okay, so now that Jane's jumping on board, we need to create some onboarding materials. So jumping back into PowerPoint again, this time I'm going to ask it to create a presentation from a file. And what I've done, I'm going to upload the job description file that we had and reference the company manual as well, and just ask it to create a PowerPoint for me. here's the areas that it's going to cover, and then there are all of the pages. So, what is the purpose, professional learning and development, our locations, collaborative relationship. Great, so I created all of that just from those files. So now if we think about that whole scenario of hiring somebody, you can think about where it can shortcut things for you and just speed things up. Last example I'll show you is for marketing, because we all need to market our businesses. This time, jumping into Edge. Now, you may see if you use Edge, you can already see a Copilot button there. So there is a free version of it as well, or the paid. So jumping into Edge, I'll click on the Copilot button, pops open this page. So again, you can see those 6 areas. It's giving me prompters of things that I could actually put in there. But I have a look up here. So you'll notice the green thing, it says protected. So I'm in a protected environment. It's protecting my data. It's not sharing information outside of my area, which I think is really important. Because we want to keep control of our data and understand where it is. I can also quickly click the button and change the language to Māori. Now over this side, it says web or work, so I can choose where am I actually wanting to find this information, just inside work or my work documents, or do I actually want it to go out to the internet as well? So in this case, I'm wanting it to give me some options for the Yorb Aware, the email testing, what else is in the market. So down the bottom, this little one here says precise. I want it to actually give me facts and figures and information. So I'm going to ask it to give me the 5 other email phishing testing products in the market. It goes away, has a look. It can't count, so it gave me 10, even though I asked for 5, but hey, that's fine. More is good. But you'll see down here, it's giving me my citations as well, and it relates to each of those. So I can see where it found that information, which again, I think is really important. Back over to Loop, I need to create a promotional plan. So I've pasted in that information I got before, and it's still got all those links to everywhere. But I'm going to ask it to create a marketing plan for me. Copilot there as well. And I'm going to ask it to come up with a series of 10 taglines as well. So great, now I've got like 10 actions I need to take for the marketing plan. It talks about creating your unique selling proposition, that sort of thing, all these bits. So I could just give that to somebody, delegate those out. And then down the bottom, it's also given me some taglines. So what have we got there? Keep your data safe with online security training from Yorb, protect your assets with online security training. So great, it's just given me some options that I can then use for other things. Now, popping over to Outlook, I need to create a promotional email. So in Outlook, you can do a couple of things. So I could choose to write the email myself and then use Copilot to coach me on the email. And it's quite interesting because what it will do, it will tell you the sentiment of your email as well. It might say, hey, that sounds a bit angry, or, it's like, oh, okay, won't send that one. Or you can get Copilot to write it for you first. So click the button, ask it to generate the promotional email based on the Yorb Aware. And I pasted in those points that I had earlier. So I read this earlier and it sounded a bit stuffy and kind of not very friendly. So what I'm going to do is just ask it to make it more friendly and engaging. Gives me another option. Do I want to keep that? Yep, that looks great. So there's the email. And again, please read and tweak. You can also ask it to write emails that sound like you. So you can show it some emails that you've written, and then it can add your tone to it as well, which is quite good. Because you imagine we all talk about, oh, we can tell AI wrote that and stuff. So, okay, and finally, we want some social media posts. And we can pop on LinkedIn. So just jumping back into Copilot there. Ask it to make some social media posts based on the PowerPoint that I created earlier. So it's going to have a look at the PowerPoint, and then it's going to come up with, here's some options that I can start with. So one of them, why Yorb Aware? Yorb Aware is the best way to protect your business from cyber threats. Our comprehensive online training program is customised, blah, blah, blah. So, a whole lot of great information, and then I can use that and start popping those on LinkedIn. Now, why Microsoft and Yorb? So for us, Microsoft is probably one of the world's biggest security companies. They do make a bit of software as well and a few other things, but mainly it's about security. Their budget would just blow your mind. So for us, we really understand that security and privacy landscape. So we have the confidence in that space. So then we can take all our learnings and then apply it to the Microsoft space as well. So your data is so incredibly important. You don't want to get out there. You want to protect it and have control over it. So that's why we chose to stick with the Microsoft side. And what's with the name Copilot? Personally, I think Microsoft absolutely nailed it. So it's not like the pilot and it's not autopilot. It's Copilot. It's that person sitting next to you helping you with those tasks. So it's quite interesting, like if you have Copilot, you almost become a team leader or a manager, and now you're delegating tasks down to this Copilot, help you along. And if you think about their delegation mindset, it's quite important to apply that to AI. So often when we delegate a task to somebody, if it's important, we're going to check what they did. And I think that's one of the keys, because we often get asked, can you trust it? It's like, well, can you trust a person that you just gave stuff to? Yeah, I'd still want to check it if it is important. So if it wasn't important, then maybe you don't. So yeah, very important, and just to think about it that way, and it's a nice way to. Now, how to implement Copilot in 2 simple steps. So I'm in the sales team, so for me, everything's super simple. So for me, it's very much like you buy a license, and then you assign it to somebody, and then away you go. So.
Sales. I've had Copilot write your letter. Thank you very much. That's it. Now, where's you got? I want that. Thank you. It's not that simple. As much as the salespeople might love to tell you, you buy a license, you turn it on, it's not that simple. There's some very good reasons for that. First of all, I want to couch this with the things I'm going to talk about here are not Copilot only things you should do. Your data needs to be governed in a certain way, and whether you're using Copilot or not, it still needs to be managed, particularly with legislation like the anti-money laundering legislation and new Privacy Act. You need to be managing your data properly. Copilot just helps you realise you need to do that a little bit quicker. So first of all, Copilot is your worst snooping employee. It will go through your data in your 365 and hunt it out. Now, it'll only do that in the context of the user that has the license. So if Rich tries to search for something using Copilot, it's only going to give him information that he had access to already. The problem is, how do I know I've configured my data to prevent Rich from accessing something he shouldn't? So if it asks the question, how much does the CEO get paid? And there's a spreadsheet in the system that I saved in the wrong place, it's going to spit out Daniel gets paid $10 an hour. On a good day. If you have health and safety issues, if you've got a performance management, if you've got any sort of information you want to keep quiet or sensitive that should only be for management or only certain teams, bank balances, if you haven't secured your data correctly, it's going to show you. Secondly, we've all been in business a while, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. We've written documents over the years, we've written product manuals, we've written procedures and processes, health and safety guides, and we've stored them on our shared drives. Who's deleted those? Put up your hand if you've deleted the process you written in 2012 on health and safety. Well done. You're the only one here. But we write all this data, and data's been growing exponentially. We never go back and delete it. In 2018, we write an updated health and safety policy. The old one's still there somewhere in a draft version or in a development space, but it's still there. So you have this brand new employee come in and you say to him, hey, you need to go read our health and safety policy. So he types into Copilot, please read my health and safety policy to me. Do I need to wear steel cap boots? No, you don't, because in 2012 you didn't have to. And there's a policy there that says in 2012 you don't have to. So it's very much garbage in, garbage out. So if your data's not in a good state, you haven't archived off those old policies and procedures, it's going to give you incorrect information. So the 2 pieces there. First off, when you start, your step 1 needs to be about looking at your data. Where is it? And is it of good quality? archive off all those policies and procedures, things that are no longer relevant to your business. You don't need to delete them. Just put them in an archive. Like, I never delete anything, and I don't want to, because one day I'm going to use it. But you can put it in a site and tell Copilot not to index that site and say, right, here's a space for our R&D or our old product information and all the rest. It needs to be moved. Step 2, what data are you storing and how sensitive is that? Things like the Anti-Money Laundering Act says if you're in the financial world, you need to be recording driver's licenses or passports or other personal information, or if you're in the medical industry, health records. Where have you put that? And have you put the correct data controls around it to prevent it getting into the wrong hands? Like I said, this isn't unique to Copilot. Copilot just makes that data a whole lot more accessible to people that probably shouldn't have it, or possibly shouldn't have it. So you need to go through, identify that data, and then make sure you tag it in the appropriate way or put it in the appropriate location so it's not discovered by people that shouldn't see it. Last, it is not about doing that once, because every day we generate new data. Every day we say, I'll just store this file here for 5 minutes and I'll put it in the right place tomorrow. That's happening all day, every day. And you saw Rich, he's just generated 30 documents in the space of 5 minutes. So the pace of that document and data creation is only going to increase. So you need to be putting forward some sort of governance and lifecycle management for your data. And the general idea is you need to be managing what's called data rot. So redundant, obsolete, trivial data. So make sure your data's backed up and then start going through, where is my data stored? Have I got compliance controls around it? Am I putting data management and governance controls around it? And then rinse and repeating that every 3, 6, 12 months, whatever's appropriate for your business. The nice thing is with AI, this is getting easier because there's been Microsoft tools for years for this. There's a product called Microsoft Purview or information rights management and taxonomy and data leak prevention. There's all these tools to help with this, but they've all been very enterprise space. They employ a data governance officer and that person's paid several $100,000 a year to maintain data. With AI tools, we can now run tools across your data and automatically flag data that's that has IRD information or tax information or health information and flag it for us and then say this person has access that maybe it shouldn't. So we're working with some vendors at the moment and they're developing tools to work in the Microsoft space that you can say, show me all files that are over 4 years old that haven't been touched for 6 months. And then I'm going to archive that automatically. It leaves a placeholder there, and if the person needs it back, you can have it back, but then Copilot's not going to use it. It'll go through and detect that security data and then say, you should really put this somewhere safe. So that world is getting easier, but you can't just ignore it. You need to be looking at data and maintaining that data. You can call me AI. You've got this in your packs. This is our sort of quick 7-step process for getting AI deployed. Again, it talks about how you launch it, how you do your data hygiene, how you do your data governance and security. Please have a read of it and reach out to us if you have any questions.
Okay, so it's not quite as simple as I thought, but really important. I mean, we had a chat about a client the other day and they're like, look, we've got all the rules to manage our data that you told us about and we've been doing that. But things change over time. And has everybody in your organisation been following those rules? So great to use that software to overlook. So today we've had a quick look at Microsoft Copilot, the main tools in Word and PowerPoint and so on. I didn't touch on Excel. You can ask me about that later on. But Microsoft haven't stopped there. They're putting Copilot into almost everything that they can think of. So we've got Copilot for the web and Bing and Edge. Then we've got their main office productivity tools. Copilot in sales, security, Copilot in GitHub, which is what our software developers use, and they've just found that absolutely amazing. So GitHub did a survey of their programmers to see how much time they think they saved using Copilot. And on average, it's about 40% of the menial tasks they've saved because they don't have to do those. They're not using Copilot to make this amazing software. They're just using it for all those menial tasks that they do all the time. So, excellent. It's not the end for Copilot, though. As you can imagine with Microsoft, they are in development with other areas. So upcoming, they've got Copilot for Finance, which is going to be integrating Outlook, Excel in your finance package. They've got Copilot for Sales, Copilot for Security, which is going to be released on the 1st of April. And Copilot for the New Planner. So as these tools come out, we'll try to find out as much information about them as we can and then help our clients to embed those into their operations if they need it. So thank you all for your time. So great to have you along and just give you a little glimpse into all of that. Just a quick reminder, we've got a tally that we're giving away. Good news is only 43 people have entered so far, so your odds are pretty awesome. So how you enter is you scan that code, which again is in your packs. In there is a survey, so just let us know your thoughts, any questions, and you can let us know if you want what we call an AI readiness assessment as well. So that's where we'll come along and we'll just have a chat to you about your business and so on, just to kind of identify areas that you might want to think about before you jump into that AI journey. So what we'll do now is we'll open to some questions. So Lyle's got the questions that you've added, so he's going to ask those. And let's see if we can
Righty, yeah, we've got some great questions. Adam, could you raise your hand? Fantastic, thanks Adam. So Adam's question, the first of which, of a few, is this?
Yeah.
All right, good stuff. What is running Copilot in the back end? OpenAI? If so, which version? Version 4? Question mark?
That is a great question. So Microsoft do own 49% of OpenAI, I think it is. So they don't have anybody on the board. I think it's, just to keep it all above board. So they do use OpenAI's technology, and I believe it's version 4, so of GPT. Now, all of the tools as well that they've used to make Copilot for Word and Excel and everything, all those tools are actually available, so you can make your own version of it as well if you wanted in that whole Azure space, which I found really interesting. So all the building blocks available to people if they want to build their own ones. The one we didn't touch on is they've got Copilot Creator Studio, so you can actually build your own little Copilots for things. So at work, we've got like a knowledge base of information. I could build my own little Copilot that just looks at that information like a little chatbot and to do those tasks or other tasks.
All right, next question from Adam is, what limitations does Copilot have? As an example, ChatGPT has many listed, such as false information. If so, is Copilot similar?
So every time you go to use Copilot, down the bottom, it will say, something like Copilot can make mistakes. So, which I think is great. It's that reminder to check on things. And it's still early days. So when I created that PowerPoint where I pasted that text to create the PowerPoint, pasted it in, went go. Oh, sorry, I can't do that. Oh, okay. Tweak the text bit. Oh, sorry, I can't do that. So I ended up putting quote marks around each of the bullet points, and away it went, and then it was awesome. So there are limitations at the moment. It's not this big, amazing thing yet, but it's great for those little tasks. So you could probably ask it, what are your limitations as well, and then I'll list those. So.
Excellent, thank you. A question from Matt. Thank you, Matt.
Next, Adam. I saw them both typing frantically into the phone. So.
Matt has written a volume here. No, just kidding. It's all good. From a privacy perspective, what guardrails stop a staff member using Copilot to summarise data from the organisation network stored files that is not part of their workflow, thus not part of their privilege, and possibly a breach of privacy or corporate trust?
So very much, as Daniel said, it's around those permissions. So, but auditing your permissions as well and making sure they're in place is great. And having a tool that you can do that rather than relying on a person, etc. Yeah.
Thank you, Matt. Now I have another question here from an anonymous contributor.
Oh, that might be mine. I forgot to my name.
Alrighty, yeah, that's fine. I have a few, so it's all good. Do you need the consent of external teams meeting participants for Copilot to be used?
Sweet.
Is that yours? That was yours. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Duncan. So when you do in Teams, if I choose to record a meeting or I choose to click the Copilot button, it pops up a message for the other people. Rich has started transcript with Copilot, or Rich is recording this meeting. So straight away, that is your way to let them know. You can't do it without them knowing, and then they could object if they want to and say, actually, I'm not comfortable with this. So, yeah.
Does that even include, you know, how you can record, they might say, happy to have it recorded,
Yep.
but then later on you can ask Copilot to look at the recording, is that correct? And go through an old one to do summaries and so on, is that possible?
Yeah, what you need is to have your Copilot license first, then to be able to do that rather than give it the transcripts. I did try where I grabbed a transcript from a meeting and I asked Copilot some questions about it, and it didn't give me very good results. The results during the meeting, when it's during the transcript, are absolutely amazing in comparison. So yeah, I don't think you can necessarily go back and use it very well to look at previous meetings and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Adam has another question. It may have been answered in a subsequent slide, but the question is, are there any other integrations outside of Microsoft applications that Copilot will work with?
Yep, so at the moment, if I jump into Teams, Copilot in there, the one I showed you right at the beginning, there's a little button down there like ChatGPT, you can add plugins, and so Microsoft Copilot started doing that as well. So there I can choose if I want to search on the web, but then I can also choose Copilot-ready apps that are made by other companies, and there'll just become more and more of those as well. Yep.
Thanks, Adam. Another question from Adam is there the ability to build any form of customised agents or specific case software within Copilot similar to GPT?
Yeah,
to
so
GPT.
Copilot Studio, yep, 100%.
Yep. All right.
We do have some prizes on the table. I think, Adam, you're going to get
Yes,
some of those.
I will hand out some prizes to you all. Thank you for those who have asked questions. All right, so there's an anonymous question here around limitations of Copilot. Who asked that one?
That might be mine.
Yep.
If it's
All right,
around
excellent.
CVs and bias, it will be mine.
Yes, that's the question. So what are the limitations of Copilot for summarising CVs in terms of formats and potential bias?
So Copilot, from a format point of view, it can,
format,
yeah, so it can look at PDFs as well as Word documents, etc. So, but if you are requesting CVs, you might want to specify which way you want it. As far as bias, I'm not 100% sure. Like, I know sentiment is very good at that. So I can say, you know, read this and what is the sentiment of this? Or in our Teams meeting before doing the interview, what's sentiment? Oh, it's all happy and jovial, you know, maybe, but, or, so yeah, it would just be around trying it. I think from Microsoft's point of view, they will be trying to eliminate as much bias as they possibly can, because that's where you get into trouble. So.
There's been some news articles on that already with some GPTs having bias out of the box, which obviously they're trying to clean out.
Yep.
But ultimately it's trained on a model on the internet which has built-in bias, and it's a problem everyone's working through.
And it's probably also keen to realise that the information you're putting into it each time you do it, it's not learning off that. You go back to it like a minute later, it's already forgotten everything, it's Alzheimer's or something. So yeah, which I think is important. Otherwise, you could create that bias yourself. So, yeah.
My experience is that it generally objects to opinions.
Yes.
Like, would you vote Trump or Biden?
Yep.
It says, sorry, I'm not answering this.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Rightio. Adam has another question. Are there any applications within 365 that Copilot does not work with or within? As an example, SharePoint or other.
Yep. I've got a Mac, as much to dismay of the rest of the people at Yorb. I use OneNote on the Mac, doesn't have Copilot yet, it's a bit annoying. So I've got Windows on my Mac as well, and Copilot works in there. So there are some, like what Microsoft tend to do is that they bring out stuff when it's kind of in beta mode, so before it's fully ready, just to get community feedback and stuff, so you'll see it coming out and more. But just thinking about those tools, it seems to be in most. They've just released it for OneDrive as well. So SharePoint, no, I don't think so yet, but the other tools, Power Automate, the Power Suite, Power BI, etc., they'll be embedding it in there as well. So.
Sorry, Rich, can I just ask a question on that? So you're telling me it doesn't work with SharePoint. What about all my documents and my document libraries? Is it not reading those?
Yeah, but not from the SharePoint app. So if I'm in Word, I can query everything that's in SharePoint, or if I'm in others, I can query that as the data, but it's not, I don't go to the SharePoint website and there's not a Copilot button there to click.
Still able to consume the document?
Yeah, 100%, yep.
All right. Next question is, it's anonymous. I don't know who asked this question. What does it cost per user?
That's great. I love that question. And I was surprised. It's quite interesting. When does that question come up during this? So at the moment, what they're doing is that you can buy it on an annual license, 582 plus GIST per person per year. Works out to roughly kind of around that $48. So the way to think about it is, how much time could I save per month? And then versus how much it costs. So like in Daniel's case, he probably needs to cover 5 hours a month since he only gets $10. But for other people, it might be a couple of hours sort of each month. And then you covered the cost of it. So
just to that, could you transfer that license from one person to the other?
You can. I do think Microsoft might cotton on to that at some point. Okay. If it goes, this license has changed to 10 different people in this 1 month, they might be a bit like, so yeah. But no, we have assigned the license from one person, given it to somebody else to try out as well. So.
Right, there's a question here, anonymous question again, not sure who asked this one. Can you give us some indication as what it can and can't do in Excel in a nutshell?
That's a great question.
Sorry, I didn't ask that.
Whose question was that, sorry? It was you? Excellent. Good one,
So in Excel, a couple of things. So when you first open up your data, it wants you to convert it to a table. It can't do anything without it being a table. And I jumped in Excel the other day. I'm like, Copilot, what can I do in Excel? That's great. It can give you insights. It can look at margins. So I did do a little trial where I had some sales data, and I asked it to create a new column showing me like the margin of sales for this information. So it created another column with that information. Then I asked it to, for the positives and negatives, to add an icon of an up arrow, green arrow, and a down orange, red one. And then I asked it to give me some insights in that data. So I created a new sheet, and it had 4 graphs. And I could click on a graph and it would show me the data fields, and I could click on which ones I wanted to include in that sort of thing. So good. I don't know Excel enough to really go at it. So what I said is, if you want to have a look, give me a yell and have a spreadsheet ready. We can pop it in and just see what we can do with it, sort of thing. You know it a whole lot better. You know it really well. So that'd be a great option. But it can create your pivot tables and everything you want to do. So yeah.
Well, that was all the questions we had through the app. Any questions from the floor? If you have a question, raise your hand, and more than happy to try and answer it for you.
We were talking before about the data, like cleaning your data and making sure that you've filed stuff in particular places. Is there like master settings where you can go, don't look at anything over there for anyone?
Yes.
Yeah.
So very much Copilot looks at what they call the Microsoft Graph, which is hiding behind your Office suite. So it looks at everything, emails and schedules and calendars and files and all of that stuff. But you can definitely tag information that it shouldn't look at. So it excludes it from the data set.
So your return's not been accidentally accessed data if you say, make sure you exclude all that.
Yep, absolutely. It's like Daniel said, archive all that stuff off, make that whole library that it can't see it, but then there'll be other stuff you just don't want it to see as well. So an example that I heard, chatted to a chap at Microsoft who got to use it before us. I was at this lunch and he was telling us about it. He said it was great because somebody rang up and they wanted to get the process to apply for some sort of funding, and he's like, I have no idea. So rung around a few people and they're like, oh yeah, I'll come back to it tomorrow, I'm a bit busy and that sort of thing. So then he said, oh, that's right, I've got Copilot. This is before it used to remind you that it was there. So he went in and he asked Copilot how to apply for this funding. And it was great because the response it came back with had those citations, and it was like, I got this information from this email, here from this PowerPoint, this from the SharePoint page, etc. Just created a bulleted list for him, and he's like, perfect, gave it to the guy, job done, you know. So it's pretty amazing what it can go away and look at. When you first get your license as well, it doesn't turn on straight away. So when I first got it, I'm like, where's the button? You know, and it probably took 2 or 3 days to start to appear in those other apps and Word and everything else. And then it was there. And similar with the data, we've got a lot of data, so it takes a while to do this search and to create, what are those called, Troy? Those connections with your data, semantic indexing. So yeah, it creates all these like connections to everything so that it's quick when you go to ask it to do things. So. Sorry.
For security,
Yep.
is that an interface that helps you to do exactly this type of thing, or is there more to it?
So 2 types of things. So yeah, security is definitely about the security behind the scenes, and again, that's probably more of a Troy one. So, you know, the work that we're doing with Defender at the moment, it helps in that space and looking at attack vectors and all that sort of side. Whereas Purview is the more around data governance and all that side of things. So.
You weren't counting on me having a teacher's voice, were you? I wanted to know what training there was available.
That is a fantastic question. So I wasn't allowed to include a slide because they thought that it'll show my age. But back in the early 80s, I used to watch a TV show called Greatest American Hero. And so this guy had this amazing superhero suit, but he dropped the instruction manual. And man, he used to fly around like this and he'd run into buildings and stuff. I think Copilot's like that as well. We could give you Copilot and you'll fumble your way through and be able to use it. But definitely, I think training is super important for it. So we haven't nailed down what the training will look like, but I do think it's really important to get the most from it. Sounds silly, but you probably get that it's a productivity tool. So when we look at productivity, it's even like, I do this task every day, but I don't realise I do it every day because I just do it every day. And so even identifying the tasks that you could actually use it for, so helping people identify that sort of thing as well. So yeah. So yes, we will be looking at training and what options there are for that. In your packs, there is a sheet about how to ask a prompt. And I guess, like I said, you know, when you delegate to somebody, to get the best results when you delegate, it is about how clearly can I articulate my expectations and the results that I want? Copilot's like that as well. Back in the day, you know, we had push-button phones, and your text messages had all these like things I couldn't understand. I'd have to Google what does that mean. But then we got like iPhones and Androids, and we started writing full sentences again. Then we go to search engines, and we put in like 3 key words to try to get a result. But now that AI's come about, you'll probably notice we've started writing proper sentences again with question marks and stuff on it, and so it's quite interesting.
Well, my question is around, I think you may have answered it, but if I'm on my computer and I have my own OneDrive I link to, I've got my work OneDrive, SharePoint, can you segregate your own personal information?
Yeah. It shouldn't be looking at your personal one that you have. It should only be looking in your company space.
So we can just drive that. We can design that to
so
be...
you can get Copilot Pro as a license, which is for people that don't have a business Microsoft license. So Copilot Pro is where you can use that for your personal stuff. And then you've got the Copilot for 365. So.
My next question was, we live on our phones. Would the experience on your phone be the same or different to your laptop?
So,
you have different data?
yeah, so there is, so what we do with people in their phones is ideally with customers, if you have access, or if you want access to company email and data, etc., then we recommend that your phone is enrolled in the Microsoft Intune and so on, so that you as a business have control over that. So it's, again, controlling your data. And then if Copilot's on here, then it's still looking at your company information that you have access to. The experience with the Copilot app on your phone is a bit different. It's got a microphone button so you can talk to it, and a camera one as well so you can take photos of things. And I had somebody went for lunch, they took a photo of the menu and said, "Can you tell me what the stuff will taste like?" And so it kind of like, there's an ice cream, it was like a sheep milk ice cream or something like that. It's like, oh, be slightly tart but creamy and stuff. It's like, okay, and it was. So it's pretty clever. I think the other key thing is AI is here. And so we talk about businesses that adopt it versus businesses that don't. The ones that do, probably going to have a bit of an advantage in that productivity space, achieve more, etc. Similar in education as well. It's like schools, it's just AI is like an absolute nightmare for them. Or they could learn to teach with AI now. And so a really good example of that is a college gave the students an exercise that they had to do, an assignment. They had to write an essay using AI. So they all wrote this essay. Now their job was to critique it. And I thought that's the best example of how to teach with AI rather than against it. So yeah, really cool. Yes.
With that in mind, presumably at the moment we're getting a large language model which is generic and put out by Microsoft. Is there capacity for us to buy ownership of the model and to grow it within our domain?
There are different models out there. So if you're using the Microsoft model, you're using their large language model that is trained on that massive amount of data. For you to try to have one that you trained on data, it's not really feasible for businesses. It would just cost them an absolute fortune. So,
what I'm thinking about, sorry, you can buy models to load on your own computer and train yourself.
Yep.
This seems quite generic, and it forgets every query that it's ever had.
Yep.
I'm just thinking about how useful it would be to actually have a model that didn't forget and was specific to our organisation and knew our organisation inside out, and how much more helpful that would be down the track.
It is a good point. I did see with ChatGPT you can give it instructions. So you can say, whenever you answer this, answer it always in a Kiwi voice. I know it's not giving you the full context of your stuff. Like I say, you can create your own Copilots that are on your own data in that Copilot Studio. So you can say, here is the pool of data for you to look at. It'll still be using the big large language model as well, because that's typically how it communicates in English for us. But here's the resource of the data for you. And because it's looking at all your data in your 365, essentially you are kind of training it on that stuff as well. I'm not sure whether it becomes about the language it uses, because that's what the large language model is. It's about how to understand and then respond. So yeah, interesting though. Thank you.
Just wondering if it's, is it localised or regionalised in terms of, so if you ask it general questions, say about legal questions or employment questions, does it know that it's in New Zealand, if it's in New Zealand?
That I don't know.
Okay.
So that would be good to find out, because there is, like when I typed in the marketing term before, it knew what that term was. It didn't have to go away and look it up. So there is definitely some information that it has,
cool,
but just not too sure on how close that sort of stuff is. And I would definitely check that sort of thing if you're using legal or anything like that, get a response. So.
Hi, you've mentioned that Copilot is used in various applications and is used to create output files.
Yep.
I just wanted to know if, is there any metadata in those outputs that suggests that Copilot has been a part of this creation?
Good question. Not that I've seen, but it is a question that Heather's helped answer. She is way down there. But about, should we say that we used AI to create this content or not? So do you want to just touch on...
Thanks.
Thank goodness for microphones.
Yeah, so this is around putting your governance in place before you roll out a tool like this. So, legally, of course you can use it, it gives you data, but it's around like the principles that your organisation is running against. So it's how are you going to use it that aligns with your values? How are you going to train your staff to use it? How are you going to let people know if you are using it? So it's how your values align, your principles. And you know, legal is different to moral and ethical. You probably want to put in place some of those things before you start rolling it out everywhere. So governance, important before you turn it on. Yeah.
Absolutely, and AI is in so many things nowadays. It's like, have you got rules internally about what people are allowed to use? Or if somebody wants to use an AI tool, do they need to come and ask permission? Or, yeah, so as I say, we're very early in this piece and there's a lot that you need to think about. So when we do the readiness assessment, that's the sort of questions that we'll ask. You know, do you need an AI policy? Do you need a governance framework and that sort of thing? So, yep. Ayla.
A personal experience.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Bilingual. My first language is German. My second language is English. I do notice when I use AI that the quality of replies in English are way better than in German. And I reckon that's because just the data source in English is much greater than German.
Ayla.
When you talk about permissions, will you get notified if you've done all the right things in the back end that someone has tried to access that data? Like, is there a rule that you can put in place to say, hey, someone's tried to access this with Copilot?
Daniel?
It shouldn't even appear in index. So if a user
You as the person who's set those rules to say so-and-so can't access it, like, do you get pinged to be like, someone's trying to create a document?
if you ask the question, how much does the CEO get paid? And there might be a CEO file in the system they don't have access to. It's not even going to try and access it. So there is no attempted breach. It's just saying, I can't answer this question. So it's not in the wheels of security where somebody tries to attack your data and gets access. Copilot won't even try and give you results for questions you don't actually have access to. So as far as I'm aware, it won't give any sort of feedback in that regard. It doesn't tell you what people have been searching for, though you can do reporting on how much Copilot's being used and therefore get a report on if Bob's using it, how much he's using it, is he getting value for money out of that license?
That's a good point, actually. Brings back to you. So, if somebody's not using it, you can just be like, you're not using this. I'm taking this and giving it to somebody else. So, yeah, thank you.
The other option to that is, can it give you a summary of what people are using it for and asking?
Yep, I haven't been privy to the reporting it gives you in the back end, so it is quite extensive from what I understand. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what we can actually pull out of that.
Could you set up, maybe it's in line with that same question, could you set up alerts for certain phrases or keywords that you want to be aware of people asking? Is that possible?
Yes, I don't know that, so it'd be worth having a look at.
I suspect Mike's going to give you trend analysis rather than privacy type things. So I suspect over time they'll give you trends. People ask these typical types of questions rather than giving you that pointed information. But the reporting isn't as strong yet as it will be in another 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got one for you, Rich.
Yep.
Emails. We have lots of information in emails, and we have the whole conversations around performance, HR, client documents, and client information. When I do searches, can we, tag emails that we are not allowed to search upon, right? So maybe the guy that earns $10 an hour, can we tag it so we can't actually search through his emails, but we want to be able to search through everyone else's emails?
Can you see his emails at the moment?
It's still the same. It's still the same thing.
Yeah,
so
you can't see the $10.
Actually, so like delegated access. So if I want to look at all the marketing team's emails and say, well, what's been said about this product? If I haven't got delegated access, I'm not going to get an answer.
No.
But you could set it up to utilise that.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps in some of these tools that Daniel's mentioned, the ones that look at your data and so on, there might be options to go, Copilot shouldn't look for any personal identifiable information, Privacy Act stuff.
So you could set it up so all the sales team can look at all the sales team's emails and say, give me all the information about Fred client that you've got. Search through the sales team.
Yeah, perhaps in that case it might... Yeah, it might be more if we use, let's say, dynamic CRM for our sales process and so on, then it's got AI in there. the sales, and maybe it's pulling everything from that data that's in the CRM instead, rather than going specifically to individuals' email boxes and having a look in there. But as I say, you need permission to be able to see that stuff, otherwise you won't at all. So, yep.
Question. We, old school, use a lot of password protection on our Excel files.
Yep.
Can Copilot access data in Excel, password protected Excel files?
My understanding is no, and similar to internet banking, somebody said, oh, you know, if I go to all these internet banking websites and stuff, can it look at that? It shouldn't be able to get through password protections. It's still that security layer there, so, yep. Very good. Well, thank you all for coming. You do have the link in our information, so if there are other questions that you do have after this, or if you just want to have a chat about Copilot, do let us know, and we'll come talk to you about it, have a trial with an Excel spreadsheet, etc., or two, so, and see what it can do. So, thank you.